Alright, we just finished 13. We're going to move on to the last section of these algebraic proofs on the assignment. So if you go to 14, I'm going to start it by combining like terms. Because on this right side I have multiple n terms. Left side, n minus 8. Right side is going to get 13. Negative 5n plus 3n is going to be negative 2n. And now I'm going to add 2n to both sides because, well, I want my n's on the left side. So what lets me add to both sides is the addition property of equality. And now on the left side I have 3n minus 8 equals 13. And what lets me do that is simplify, or the simplification property. And now I'm going to add 8 to both sides. And what lets me do that is the addition property of equality. And if I simplify, I will have 3n equals 21. So that's to simplify. But if I then divide, or use the division property of equality, and then simplify, I will be at my end here. So if I divide both sides by 3, and then simplify to n equals 7, I will be done. Moving on to 15, I'm going to start out by distributing, just so I can help simplify my left side. So this is going to be the distributive property. 7 times 8a is going to be 56a, and 7 times negative 8 is going to be negative 56. Right side is going to stay the same because there's no distribution going on. And now I'm going to add 56 to both sides. And what lets me do that is the addition property of equality. And if I then simplify, I'll have my next line, which is 56a equals 8a plus 96. I'm now going to subtract 8a from both sides. And what lets me do that is the subtraction property of equality. If I then simplify, I will be able to do a little bit more work on this. 56a minus 8a is going to give me 48a. And on the right side, I'm still going to have 96. I guess technically this is combined like terms. Yeah, let me write like terms. And now I just need to distribute by the 48 and simplify, and I'll be good to go. Where a is going to be equal to 2. So the division property and division property of equality, and then simplify will get me my last step there. Moving on to the next one, 16, start out with distributing that negative 4 through. We get negative 4x minus 24. And the right side is 1 plus x because nothing combines there. I mean, nothing distributes there, so that's going to be the distributive property. And now I'm going to move my x's, so I'm going to subtract x from both sides and simplify. Well, subtraction property of equality. So here I'm going to get negative 5x minus 24 equals 1. And that was actually combined like terms because it was variables. And that's a huge difference. Alright, now I'm going to add 24 to both sides. Negative 5x on the left side. Right side is going to be 25. So that's what lets me do those next two steps is the addition property of equality. And then this one is simplifying. And then divide by negative 5 on both sides. Can be done because of the division property of equality. And then if we simplify, we will have negative 5 for x. And if we move on to 17, I'm going to start again by just distributing to simplify that left side a little bit. So just tube property. 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times p is 2p. And the right side is still just going to be negative 6 minus 2p. I'm going to add 2p to both sides. To get 2 plus 4p equals negative 6. So what lets me add to both sides is the addition property of equality. And what lets me simplify is the simplified property. And if you subtract 2 from both sides and simplify, well, I guess this one would technically be simplify. It'd be combined like terms. Like terms. But here, what lets me subtract from both sides is the subtraction property of equality. And then the next one would be simplify to get 4p equals negative 8. And if you divide both sides by 4, by virtue of the division property of equality, division property of equality, and simplifying to simplify will give me a negative 2. Alright, moving on to 18. So we just got these last 3. Again, get rid of the parentheses by using your distributive property. Negative 4 times 5n is negative 20n. Negative 4 times negative 5 is 20, positive 20. And the right side is still going to be the same, negative 16 minus 8n. If I then add 8n to both sides and combine like terms, I'm going to get negative 12n plus 20 equals negative 16. So what lets me add to both sides is the addition property of equality. And what lets me combine like terms is the combine like terms property. And now I'm going to subtract 20 from both sides to get negative 12n equals negative 36. So what lets me subtract from both sides is the subtraction property of equality. And then I would have to simplify to get to this point. And now I'm going to divide by negative 12n. And I can do that because of the division property of equality. And if I then simplify, I will have my answer of n equals 4. And that one's done. Moving on to 19. I'm going to distribute to get rid of all that parentheses stuff. Distributive property, distributive. That's an S. Distributive property. Alright, 4 times 2n, 4 times 5, 4 times 2n is 8n, 4 times 5 is 20, 2 times n is 2n, and 2 times 1 is 2. Yeah, I'm gonna put the variables on one side first, because, well, I can. And what lets me subtract 2n from both sides is the subtraction property of equality. To get 6n, plus 20 equals 2, and combining those terms there is combine like terms, and then subtract 20 from both sides and simplify will give you negative 18. So what lets me subtract from both sides is the subtraction property of equality. Property of equality, and then simplifying, and then dividing by 6 on both sides is going to give me n equals negative 3. And what lets me divide both sides by a number is the division property of equality, and then simplifying gets me my last result there of n equals negative 3. And then 20, our last one. A lot of parentheses stuff, and so you just have to multiply through using your distributive property. -3 distribute, 8 distribute. -3 times -5 is going to be positive 15. -3 times -4m is going to be positive 12m. And let's subtract 6 is still there. 8 times m is 8m. 8 times 1 is 8. So 8m plus 8 plus the 5 on the end. And I'm going to simplify at this point just to have less things around. Left side is going to give me 12m plus 15 minus 6 is going to be 9. And then on the right side, 8m, that's an 8. And then 8 plus 5 is going to be 13. And now I'm going to subtract both sides by 8m. And what lets me do that is the subtraction property of equality. And I need to combine like terms to get to the next step. 12m minus 8m is 4m. The plus 9 still there, 13 still on the right side. I'm going to subtract 9 from both sides. And what lets me do that is the subtraction property of equality. And simplifying will get me my next line. Uh, 13 minus 9 is 4. Dividing by 4 on both sides can be done because of the division property of equality. And simplifying will give me my last line there. M equals 1. And now we're finally done.